am Miriam Calleja, and I'm here with Nadia Mifsud, author of Variazzjonijiet ta' Skiet. We're going to be reading some poetry in Maltese and English and chatting about our experience in this translation. Hi, Nadia.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Nice to be here.
Do you want to show us the book, the
Yes,
original?
sorry, here it is. So this book here was originally published in Malta in 2021, and there it is.
And it won an award, right?
Yes, it did. It won the National Book Award for Poetry in Malta. Yeah.
Awesome. So we're going to read some poetry. Do you want to start us off?
Okay, so I'm gonna read a poem in Maltese. It's called Tomata Skiet. Let's go. Eidli, x'toma għandu iskiet? Tomata ħamrija ħamra u żnuber ta' raba ġmiem miżud bil-peprin, ta' naspla fuq xuftejja, għaċċana għal xuftejk, ta' ramel imrekken f'xari li tħabbel meta tħabbeb mar-rieħ. Toma ta' ħalba xita li baħbħet kollox ħlif it-tifkira tiegħek fuq laħmi. Tarax il-baħar, fuq kpipel għajnejk iselmu eluf ta' għajnejn oħra li jimbelu mix-xejn. Toma ta' dalma ħannina, ta' ħuġbejk imkidda bit-tabija ta' jum ħidma. Toma tal-investa li baqet ma nħaslitx. Toma ta' mqarbezza, tal-leħja li spuntat mal-lejl imbagħad oġoba tiżra ż-żernieq fuq wiċċi. Tobrox, timbex, tinki. Toma ta' kafè li joddu kesaħ, f'belt li firxitilna l-griż biex neħbew fih. Alla volja hawn ma jafna ħadd. Your turn, Mirk.
Tastes of silence. Say, how does silence taste? Tastes of red soil and conifer, wild land draped in poppies, loquats on lips, thirsting for your lips. Tastes of the sand that gathered in my windswept hair. Tastes of the cloudburst that washed everything away except for your memory of my flesh, of sea spray on your eyelids as they pay their respects to the thousands devoured by the deep. Tastes of cradling darkness, of your brows vexed by the weight of a day's work. Tastes of the pillowcase that remained unwashed. Tastes of mischief, of the stubble that sprouted overnight, easing the dawn onto my face, tickling, tingling, teasing. Tastes of coffee gone cold at this town spreads its drabness for us to hide in, no matter that no one knows us here.
Thank you very much for that beautiful reading.
Talk to me a little bit about how the idea of this book came about. Why silence?
Yeah, so actually when I was thinking about which poem should I read first, I went for this poem because it talks a lot about silence. And the whole book is, so the title of the book in Maltese is Variazzjonijiet ta' Skiet, and in English that would translate as Variations on Silence. So I was like maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I was writing a set of poems, and I wasn't doing it. Sorry. No, nothing. I thought you had said something. But yeah, so I was saying, yeah, I was writing this set of poems and I wasn't doing it consciously, but I kind of realized, after having about maybe a dozen or 15 poems, that there was this idea of silence, not necessarily the same word, because in Maltese, as in English, same thing. We have different words for different kinds of silences. So something that could also be translated into English as quiet or hush or stillness. And in Maltese, we would have the same thing. By the way, even the word silence itself in Maltese can be translated into two where it's either skit or sikta. One of them is masculine and the other is feminine. So as I was kind of editing these poems, I realized, hey, there's something in common. It's like a common thread running through all the texts. And it kind of became an obsession with time. So I ended up consciously this time around even observing different kinds of silence, not necessarily my own, but, even in interactions between people. So I would go somewhere and all of a sudden I would kind of, if it was a quiet place, and I would say, okay, why is it so quiet? And exploring this theme and how silences can mean different things. And then COVID hit. And all of a sudden, so I live in a city, I live in Lyon, which is the second largest city in France. So obviously, a city there's so much noise all the time around you. And then all of a sudden, like literally overnight, the streets were empty. And people were like, everybody, there was the lockdown. So here, for example, in France, we had to stay at home and we could only go out, but we had to we had to navigate our way through a 1 kilometer perimeter. And so like, silence then became even more of an obsession, because there are silences that are can be very cozy, and then there are other kinds of silence where you feel the heaviness of it. It's like the space between two people, or the interaction between two people, can actually be cluttered by silence, because there are things that are not being said, or and so that's where the book came from. So the book actually is made up of two different sections. And the first section is more of poems, I would say. Most of them are romantic poems. So they talk about how, the relationship changes and how silence changes also. And then the second part is all made up of these poems that I was writing during COVID. Most of them I was posting on social media. And the conscious choices when it came to actually publishing the book, I made this conscious choice, which I sometimes do regret now, not to do too much editing on those poems, so that there's a raw kind of feeling of really, trying to transcribe what was going on back then, this very weird period that we were kind of living through. So that's the history. That's the story behind the book, if you want.
So like most poets, you got really obsessed and you had to follow that path wherever it took you. Um,
Yeah.
I find this I think this is the first time I've heard you say that you didn't do much editing on these poems. And now I'm flabbergasted, because I feel like there's so much like thought and skill that went into that. And to know that that is basically your first draft, I hate you a little bit now. But also something that is surprising me, my experience translating your work, whenever I speak to anybody about, what I'm doing, I always describe your work as very melodic, right? There's so much, ironically or not, but in these poems of silence, there's so much music and so much thought and so many layers of silence and noise intermixed together, and that was one of the great difficulties in translating, Maltese, which lends itself, I think, to poetry and lends itself to sound, um, into an English that is poetic and does the Maltese version justice. And I think for me, even though I like to use, consonants and assonance, and I like to play with words that way, it was a huge challenge to like match, right? Match the level of musicality if you want. Um, and in fact, I think in one of I was speaking to someone, I had an interview, and it came out spontaneously, and I said I'm really scared of changing velvet into plastic, right? To have
Mm.
this versions of things that don't that are so different in texture. um so I'd love to hear a next one, maybe from your love poems that you mentioned. I'm always curious about those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just to go back to what you were saying before, I think definitely that the sounds in Maltese and in English sometimes they do not correspond, you know. So you might have to choose like, okay, am I going to favor sound here, or is it more like the meaning that is important? So I definitely understand what you are saying, and sorry for giving you such a hard time. That was not
My
my intention, but but I can reassure you, you did a fantastic job there because it's not easy to, yeah. And also, I mean, it's poetry. So sometimes, one word can have multiple meanings, and then you have to really choose one over the others. So, yeah,
right.
it's never
Hmm.
that easy. Um, so, what would you suggest? I'm thinking about either The Last Dance or page 53. Which one would you like to go first?
Shall we go for page 53? We
Page,
have
yeah.
minutes, so maybe we can read through both of them
Okay,
after each.
that's fine.
Okay.
All right. So, paġna 53. Fil-paġna ta' wara qed li ipejpu sigaret flimkien, imbagħad jitkellmu fuq id-dieqa li bħal twaħdet magħha ma' żmien. Għada x'aktarx li int se tpejjeb ftit aktar mis-soltu u jien se jkolli nara kif se nifga d-dieqa u nkompli għaddejja. Dil-bankina se tissapporti eluf ta' passi oħra u l-istorbju f'dal-bandli se joftoq xi ftit mis-seksik tal-asafar fuqna. Irrid u ma rridx, wiċċek se jgħib minn moħħi u floku se jifdal żlieġa. Kull ma se niftakar il-ħaxix niedi maħfun pon bejn subajja u xuftejk ibedu in-nas minn fuq xuftejja. Nixtieq nieħdok f'kamarti u nimtet ħdejk. Minn flok jinsellimlek u nerġa' nerħik f'dirajn il-belt bla ebda ħjiel jekk qatt se troddok lura. Niġbed l-aħħar ritratt għax id-dawl perfett u naf nistabar imqar ftit nikkosta l-imqorbija taż-żernieq żejjil jinnamra mat-suntier tal-Knisja.
Page 53. On the next page, you said they smoke a cigarette together, then talk about the melancholy that seems over time to have become her. Tomorrow, it's likely you'll smoke a little more than usual, and I'll need to find a way to drown this melancholy and carry on as usual. This sidewalk will withstand countless other steps, and the playground hubbub will tear into birdsong above. I want and don't your face to become a blur. All I will remember is damp grass bunched up between my fingers, your lips wiping sleep from my lips. I wish to take you to my room and lie down beside you. Instead, I wave goodbye and surrender you into the arms of the city. No clue as to whether it will ever give you back. I snapped the last picture because the light is perfect, and I think perhaps I'll find a little solace in enjoying this coy sunrise caressing the church square.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Miriam. Shall I go for the last poem?
Yeah.
L-aħħar sifna. Imbagħad jidlam u neħimdu. Inħallu in-noti tas-sassofonu u d-daħk tal-oħrajn jieħdu post il-kliem li baqa' ma ntqalx bejnietna. Inħalli dirajn oħra jiżżersqu madwar qaddi, ħaddejn oħra jindifnu f'xari. Int tiżen kull pass, kull mossa, kull ċaqliqa. Jekk niftaħ għajnejja, naf li se tinfidni l-mistoqsija li qed tipprova tarraq fil-birra. Dawn ix-xuftejn ma jħarkux xrar fija, le. Sten, titlaq xalissa, Ħallija din iż-żifna tkun l-aħħar waħda tagħna minkejja sħana mqarba ta' daswaba fuq ġembejja. La titlaq int, saqajja se jotru.
The last dance. And then it gets dark. We go quiet. We let the saxophone notes and the laughter of others replace the words we've left unsaid. I let someone else's arm slip around my waist. Someone else's cheeks get buried in my hair. You measure every step, every gesture, every move. I know if I open my eyes, I'll drown in the question you're trying to sink in beer. Those lips don't spark anything inside me, no. Wait, don't go yet. Let this dance be our last despite the playful heat of those fingers on my thighs. When you leave, my legs will give way.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nadia.